Welcome to Advanced Data Analysis 1 with me, Erik Erhardt, Professor of Statistics at the University of New Mexico. In this video, we'll be looking at how to conduct a literature review and build a bibliography using Google Scholar and Mendeley. So here we are at the course website. I'm going to scroll down to the second week where, here's our second week. We'll have developed some research questions, and we'll be conducting a literature review this week. And so we've got a couple files over here, and I'm going to show you the end product, and then we'll get started with how to get there. So I'm going to download the literature review and the Bib file. Bib is short for bibliography, and we'll see shortly how to create one of those. So I'm going to save these to my desktop, but you should be saving them to the appropriate Advanced Data Analysis 1 folder on your computer. I'm going to go over to RStudio and open the RNW file. You can see the two files there, the RNW file, the literature review, and then at the bottom the NESARC nicotine dependence lit review.bib. That will be read in a moment. So I'll open the RNW file. And in the YAML, this top part, right, the header information is called the YAML. I've got the title, author, date, HTML document as the output, and then there's some additional information here. There is a bibliography, and it points to the .bib file. And then I have a bunch of citations here, and we're going to see in a moment how to get these citations. Let me compile this to see what it looks like. And I'll resize the window. And I'll page up to the top. Alright, so here's our literature review. During the literature review, you should identify primary source articles that's going to address the association that you're going to examine. I realize this is way too small. Let me open this in the browser and zoom in on it. So we're going to address that association by finding articles. We're going to download them, and we're going to we're going to start a bibliography list. So it's really handy to have a Bibliography Manager because at the end, let me scroll down to the very bottom here. See this reference section? This is built for us automatically. You're going to love that. It includes all the italicization and quoting and the appropriate commas and parentheses and so on, all the way throughout. And if you want to do this in APA format or MLA format or some other format, you can easily change formats. You're going to really like this. So how did we create this bibliography? Well, let me go back to the, so I page up to the top. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So I've got my example here. Recall I'm working on the alcohol and related conditions NESARC data set, and I'm examining an association between nicotine dependence, tobacco dependence, and smoking. And so how do I even get started? Now, I can tell you that other faculty and other researchers will be much better at explaining some of these concepts to you than I will, but I'll give you a good enough start. So I'm going to go back to the website. I have a link here above the literature review for UNM Google Scholar, and this provides a link to a UNM web page that you'll log in using your net ID for, and after you log in, it brings you to Google Scholar. Now, going to Google Scholar through UNM is very valuable because it gives you access to all the journals online that UNM subscribes to. And I'm not sure how many that is, but it's well into the hundreds. So I'm going to control click on this to open this in a new tab. Now I've already logged in earlier today, and so it brought me directly to Google Scholar, but you will probably see a UNM page, and you'll see 2 boxes for your net ID and your password, and once you enter those in, you'll be brought here. So let me get started with doing some searching. Okay, so let me search here for, how about association, cigarette, smoking, nicotine dependence, and college students. All right, because I'm limiting myself to people under 25 and younger, and so I got this this top hit here, and I recommend that you go ahead and scroll through and look at a lot of articles, search over a number of different terms. So I'm going to do a few things here. Notice at the bottom, so let's look at this top article. Okay, this is a 2007 article, and it starts by giving a little basically part of the abstract here for the aims of the study. And then it says this article has been cited by 92 other papers. You can search for related articles. So if there's something you're really interested, I'm going to control click on related articles. It will open a new tab up here, and now we've got a bunch of other papers about nicotine, about smoking and nicotine dependence. Very cool. So one article can bring you to many others. There's 6 versions of this article. Let me open that up in a new tab, and you'll see that basically the same article appears at several different sources. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Basically, if you go to any of these places, you should get roughly the same article. Web of Science. Maybe this is talking about the citations at Web of Science. Cite. We're going to come back here in a second, and then there is a save. I'm going to control click over here at check full text at UNM. Sometimes you get lucky and the article will be available here. So let's see if this is available. It says here to view full text. I'm going to control click on there to open a new tab, and I'm going to cross my fingers, and there's a PDF link here. That's looking good. I'm going to click on that, and we get a download. All right, so I'll name it something. Usually I try to name something based on the year it was published, the author, and the title. So this was published, looks like the copyright here is 2007. Sorry, this keeps jumping around. So 2007, Durker, and association, cigarette, smoking, nicotine, college students. It's a long title, but it'll be easy to find later on. So I'm going to save that. It's going to go to my desktop, and why don't I open it just to see what I've got. Okay, so this is a paper by Lisa Durker. She happens to be the faculty at Wesleyan University in psychology who developed the materials for this course. Some of the materials, the passion-driven statistics. So it's not a surprise that this data set is used as an example. So there's an abstract, there's an introduction. You know, the way I would read a paper if you get started is I'd start by reading the abstract carefully. Scan through the introduction a little bit. It's going to give you background and what other people have done in the past. Okay. Then there's a section on methods. It's going to tell you how the data were collected. In this case, there was a survey. Looks like they've got 49. This is too small for you to see. 4690 people who took this survey. It's got a screening thing, so we got 60 eligible freshmen, and as they've screened it down, they ended up with completed surveys with 800 students. So, you know, that's fairly typical with surveys. You start with a large sample size and less people finish it than started it. There's a results section. Let's see if she's got some plots. Okay, she's got some tables that indicate who's been smoking in the past week based on whether you're a male or female. And we have percentages. It looks like almost a quarter of males have smoked in the last week, and only about 1/6 or so females. We have some plots here. Number of cigarettes based on and given the probability of dependence, and number of days cigarettes were used. There's the results section and discussion, and then all their citations. So what I would do is I would start here by reading the abstract, see if, and some of these papers like this one, this is really nice. It gives you basically a categorized capsulation of each item. So we've got the aims, the design, they use logistic regression, okay, and ROC curve analysis. They give the findings, and if these findings are relevant to your research question, then this is probably a good paper to keep in your literature review. All right, so enough about that. We want to cite this paper. So I'm going to go back to Google Scholar, and there's a cite here. If I click this, it will open up and it will give me text that I can copy and paste. Now this is pretty good, but we can do even better, and we're going to. There's also an option down here for BibTeX, and I'm going to click on that. That gives me this text here, and I'm going to zoom way in on this. So this is the text that we want, and in a moment we're going to bring this over to Mendeley and insert it into our Bibliography Manager. What this is a format that's used by LaTeX. It's another typesetting software, and it's been very popular, especially with mathematicians, for many decades now. This tells me that the @ symbol indicates that the type of reference will be named next, and this is an article. Okay, there is a unique identifier for this article, and then there's a series of other fields. So this is Durker 2007 Association. The default ID for a Google Scholar BibTeX entry is author, year, and the first word of the title. That is pretty good at getting us close to unique citation keys. Okay, so that's the key. Now we've got the title. So, we've got a comma first, and then we've got title equals, and everything between the curly braces is the title. Then we have the author, and we continue in that way. Between each author is the word and. So the organization of this right now is last name, comma, first name, middle initial, and then the next author. And actually the author format here is very flexible. It could be first name, last name, so it can take it in many different orders. This one happens to have lots of authors, and this is something that I see occasionally, and let's not worry about it for the sake of this class. But when there are lots of authors, sometimes Google Scholar says, forget it. Here's the first few, and everyone else, et al. All right. Then we've got the journal, volume number, the number, the journal number inside that volume, the pages, and this double dash will end up being condensed to an N dash, which is a longer hyphen. You know, there's three sizes of hyphens. There's a hyphen which is short. There's something called an N dash, which is a hyphen as wide as the letter N. And then there's an M dash, which is as wide as the letter M. So this one that's too wide is the width will be typeset as the width of the letter N. Then we have the year and the publisher. Not all of these fields need to be here, and sometimes there's even more. All right. So I'm about to use this information, but I'm going to go back one step and I'm going to make a recommendation. So here we are back at Google Scholar. If you go to your settings, so drop down the arrow in the upper right hand corner and go to Settings, and scroll to the bottom about Bibliography Manager. Click on this and say Show links to import citations into BibTeX. Okay? There are a few other options here. EndNote is popular for people who use Microsoft Word, and there's these other two programs as well, but we're going to be using BibTeX. So I'm going to click Save. It should bring me back to that page, and I'll shrink this text down a little bit. And now you see that we have import into BibTeX. So there's one click immediately. It'll bring me to this page, and I'm going to press and hold Control, and then I'm going to press A for Control A. That selects all. Now I'm going to press Control C to copy that, and I'm going to go over to Mendeley. So here's Mendeley. In fact, I'm going to close Mendeley and open it back up so you can see it open up. So you recognize there's no cards up my sleeves for Mendeley. I haven't started with anything. So this is pretty much what you're going to start with. There are a few windows here. Over on the left, there's a place where you can do a literature search right in Mendeley. That's not bad. I still recommend Google Scholar, especially through UNM. You'll have access to more articles, and you'll be able to download the PDFs in many cases. Then you have a library, which you're going to build. It may actually ask you when you first open Mendeley to create an account in Mendeley, and go ahead and do that. It will synchronize your bibliography between your computer and your online account, and then if you use Mendeley anywhere else, as long as you log in, you'll always have your full database. It's a really nice thing to do over there. So I'm going to actually create a folder and type ADA1 because that's where I'm going to store my citations for this class. And pretty soon this is going to be filled with authors and titles and everything. So remember when I was over in Google Scholar, I copied this. So I'm going to bring that over to Mendeley, and I'm going to press Control V to paste it into this window. Yeah, okay, so Control V. It took all that information and it put all the fields where it belongs. So I've got my authors, my title, the year 2007, published, and so on, and when it was added. And now you know that I'm working at 1:36 in the morning. Over in the right, because this article is selected, there are the details. So this is a journal article. Here's the full title. Here's the author on the right, and so on. If I scroll down, we can see a citation key here. This is the key we're going to use to cite the article in Markdown when we do our literature review, and also in our poster. So let's go and I'm going to save this, and I'm actually going to add a bunch more citations, as though I had been spending all night doing this, or day. All right. So here's a ton of articles, and all right. So now I've got a bunch of articles in here. I don't expect you to have like 16 or 17 articles. 4 or 5 good articles is plenty. So here's this first one that we were looking at. So this citation key right here is what we're going to need. So after you've added your citations into Mendeley, go ahead and find your citation key. And I'm going to Control C to copy this. I guess I can probably also right click and do copy. And I'm going to go back to RStudio. All right. Now I'm at the top of my document. Oh, pardon me. Top of my document, and here I've got the word no cite and then a bunch of those citation keys. Okay, the one I just copied, I'll paste right here. Looks like you need the @ sign. And I have to tell you what I'm doing here. So I'm stringing a bunch of citations here together. And the way I'm doing that is, actually, let me show you what this really wants, and then I'll show you why I'm doing the thing I'm doing. Okay, so this is really expecting, RStudio is expecting this. There we go. And so on. So let's say I just had a few of them. Okay, RStudio is expecting a line like that, where you have no cite, and then you have the citation key, comma, space, the space probably isn't needed, and then the next citation key, and the next citation key, and so on. Okay, and all of those, if I go back to the compiled version of this document and scroll to the bottom, all of those are being set in the bibliography at the very end. Okay, so it's automatically creating the references section. What I'm doing, because once you start to have 4 or 5 of these, it starts running off the page to the right, and so I'm still putting my comma, but it turns out you can continue the line. So let me do it over here. If you use the pipe symbol, which is the shift / key above the enter, that effectively means the word or. And in this case, it's continuing the line on the next, continuing that on the next line. And so I'm just breaking those up by putting a pipe, pressing enter, pipe, press enter, and this will work just as well. All right, so that's what I'm doing, and so let me remove that copy, and there's all of my references up here. And there's one more step. That last step relates to, if I go back to the website, this bib file. So this was a .bib file, and we need to create this from Mendeley. Okay, so Mendeley is storing it in its own format, and so we need to get a file out of here. So if I go to File, the File menu in the upper left-hand corner, and I go to Export, I said that weird, Export, I'll press Enter, or click on that. You can see I've got file types here, and there's 3 possibilities. The first one is BibTeX. That's the one we want. There's also this research information system and an XML file, which you can use to import it into EndNote if you end up using that at some point. So I'm going to leave it on BibTeX, and let me just go to my desktop, and to show you I'm not cheating, I'm going to just let it be, let me say ADA1 bibliography for the NESARC dataset. I may have got that wrong. Let me double check. NESARC, N-E-S-A-R-C. All right, that looks good. So I'll save that to my desktop, and I'm going to copy that file name while I'm here. And I'll go back to R, and instead of using the bibliography file that I had before, I'm going to remove that and replace it with the file I just created. Okay, I started with a blank Mendeley, I pasted some citations in there, and now I'm going to use this bibliography file. So let me knit this HTML file, and we should only have that doesn't seem like enough. We have the one Lisa Durker article that we just found, but I think I may know why. So it's a little bit hard to see, but this first one is the one that's selected. So I think I exported only this top line. To double check, I'm going to go to RStudio and I'm going to open a file. I'm going to find that bib file that we just created, ADA1. Here we are. Sorry, that took me a long time. And I'm going to open that up, and this bib file is a text file, and it has only one article in it. Okay, so that's what happened. When you export, you need to select all of the articles you want. So I'm going to click on this top one, and heck, you know how to select things. I'm going to hold the Shift key down and press the down arrow a bunch of times until I get them all. Now I'll do File, Export. I'm going to overwrite that same ADA1 bib file. You selected a file that already exists. I'll overwrite. And now if we go back to RStudio and look at this bib file, now there are lots of stuff in there. Okay, very good. We'll go back to the RMD file, and if I compile this now, I should get lots of bibliography. So recall, here's where we are. Our references has this one article in it. Now we're going to knit HTML, and we should get 1, 2, let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 citations, or 10 references. That looks right to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, beautiful. It's got links to the DOI numbers. Yeah, looks great. So in a video to come, I will show you how to cite those references inside the document text. So what I'm hoping for this homework assignment is go ahead and identify those primary articles, download them, give them a quick read to get a sense of what they are. And I recommend here that, let me make this bigger by opening it here. You know, read the articles that seem to test the association most directly. Focus on the abstract and the main findings in the abstract. You know, look at the tables and figures and read the captions. Often you can get a lot of information from those, from the figures. Skim the discussion for main findings. Make notes that apply to your question, okay? And then move on to the next. Do not read an article from the beginning to the end. That is a big waste of time when you are wanting very quickly to scan articles to see whether they're good for you or not, all right? And as you read through, you may help clarify your question, right? You may focus your question more based on what you observe in the literature, okay? And when you look at the future research sections at the end of the articles that you read, maybe some of those say, you know, we studied this set of questions, but there are these other questions that we wish we could answer, and it may turn out that you've got the data that can address those questions. So if that's consistent with what you're interested in, that could be an interesting direction. All right, so based on your literature search, go ahead and select some additional questions, items, or variables that will help you to understand the association that you're interested in. And add all that stuff to your codebook. So your codebook will grow. You know, I think that if you had 10 variables, that would be an upper bound. I wouldn't consider having 15 or 20 variables. I think you start to lose focus at that point. So you need at least 5 variables, a unique identifier, 2 continuous variables, and 2 categorical variables. That's 5. And then you might add another 5 or 6. You know, age, gender, certain demographic variables I think are always interesting. So, but you know, try not to go to 15 or 20 or 30 variables. And then use that no-cite command as we did here. So go ahead and start out with that R Markdown file that I have for you here, and then strip out the stuff you don't need and fill your own stuff in, And I'm looking forward to seeing the interesting questions that you've generated and how you've arose or brought some clarity to your mind about what others have done and help focus your research question that way. All right. Well, I'm hoping that you have a really successful experience using Google Scholar and using Mendeley for creating your bibliography.